Genshin Impact, a game we all know and love. Well, I mean, if you guys been playing the games, I'm pretty sure you guys have been putting in countless hours going through and enjoying Genshin. I'm a player who's been here since day one, guys, and man has there been a lot of memories. Which is why today I wanna take you all the way back into the memory lanes of listing all of the patches that has been out. And I kind of want to rank everything in a tier list to see which were the patch that I actually enjoyed the most and which were the one that could have been better, and to see whether or not Genshin Impact over the years has improved or not. But before we jump into the video, guys, I just want to thank today's video sponsor, Tokyo Treats and Sakuraco. So Tokyo Treats and Sakuraco are Japanese subscription box services that offer snacks all the way from Japan right to your doorsteps. All their boxes contains a cultural guides booklet that tells you everything you need to know about what's inside the box, as well as the information about the snack's history, origins, ingredients, and other fun facts. So for Tokyo Treats, who's a monthly pop Japanese snack subscription box, you will get up to 20 of the latest exclusive limited edition and seasonal flavored Japanese snacks that are only available in Japan for a limited term. Now, it wouldn't be a Tokyo Treat box if there wasn't a Kit Kat package, and this month we get to experience a lovely strawberry Kit Kat. If you know me, I love strawberry, and so this Kit Kat package came to be one of my most favorite flavor. The strawberry flavor is absolutely sweet, a little bit sour, and absolutely tasty. Perfect for those of you who love strawberries as well. Continuing with the strawberry subject, you can't miss out on our strawberry yogurt hard candies. Very easy to put into your pocket and enjoy it on the go. And if you're into a bit of crispy snack, then you cannot miss out on our Sakuraco, made from frying bits of dough and rolling them through sweet sugar crystals. It does taste a little bit unique because I don't usually have these kind of snack, therefore I did enjoy it a lot. Now, Sakuraco is a monthly authentic Japanese snack subscription box. Sakuraco is supporting local Japanese snack maker. Each box comes with at least 20 traditional, authentic, and artisan Japanese snacks, including Japanese teas and special Japanese tableware. Now, since this is Sakura seasons, we are in for a treat with a lot of different Sakura snacks. First off is our Sakura mochi. Yes, I have never imagined in my life where they are actually going to be literally Sakura mochi flavor. It is a little bit different from how strawberry would taste. It does have that very aroma of Sakura blossoms, but the mochi still tastes absolutely great, guys. Alongside that comes the Sakura cream cookies. It is smooth with cherry blossom flavored cream sandwich between the crisp, thinly baked senbei. Very enjoyable to have if you are into creamy things. And obviously you cannot miss out on the Sakura Hoten Tetras as well, a traditional Japanese snack made by wrapping small pieces of Karinto in a pleasantly sweet candy, perfect to enjoy all the tea that comes within the Sakura box. And talking about tea, guys, this month Sakuraco literally sent me a very lovely teacup that has cherry blossom printed on it. Cherry blossom seasons is one of my most favorite season of the year because the flowers are just so pretty, and having this cute little cup by my side to actually have and enjoy the tea that Sakuraco sent me is a very pleasant experience. Thank you so much Tokyo Treat and Sakuraco for sponsoring this video. Now, they gave me a coupon code to share with you all so you can experience these snacks for yourself. For more information, guys, check my description box as my pinned comment to get access to the link with the coupon code. I'm pretty sure you know how tier list ranking usually goes. I'll be ranking all of the patches based on from D to S rank, with S being the absolute best patch. A, I would say is very good. B would be those that are pretty good but does have some downsides. C are for those that have many fillers and not really much good. And the D tiers are like for the absolute filler patches. Now, obviously there are some criteria regarding how we're going to be putting the patch on each of the ranking as well. Is that whether or not they have, you know, new main or conquest, new regions, any good characters that are released, what are the good events of the patches, are there any other updates to the quality of life, and whether or not they will be having fillers. So once again, guys, before we hop in, very important disclaimer is that this ranking is basically on my personal opinions. It's based on my complete feeling of how I enjoy each of these patch, and obviously my ranking could be completely different from yours. So yeah, I'll just drop that out there before we hop in. And so with everything set up and ready, let's start ranking. Alright, 1.0. Where else will I be putting that? Right, my god, very first patch. Chef kiss. Obviously, there's like a release of a completely new game, right? Genshin Impact finally has been dropped after a pretty long wait and a few betas after its release. Many new things have come, guys. Oh my god, and I believe that this is one of the, if not the first game that opened up many players to the world of gacha, and obviously that includes myself as well. I've actually never tried any, gacha type of game. So it's definitely a new breath of life to the gaming experience for me. But not only that, this is one of the few games that has really good anime type of gameplay, and it's in a completely open 3D world, right? So back then there was so many new things. Everyone just drop into the games, don't really know what they're doing, just running around trying to grind as much as you can. But the unexpected thing is that it's locked behind AR, time-gated resins and all kind of stuff that we're not used to. So of course there are a lot of frustration, but soon we quickly get used to it and enjoy the game a lot more. And also, man, the gacha addiction for so many of us is real, especially the standard freaking banners, right? There was D-Look, there was Kuching, there was Jin, Mona, Chi-Chi. Obviously, like we didn't even know Chi-Chi was bad back then. So basically any of the 5-star character we couldn't have got is going to be a win. And me myself specifically, oh my god, I was a die-hard trip for Kuching, and I'm still, up until now, I'm still a Kuching main. So my god, they actually tried and pulled so many pulls on the standard banner just to try to get a copy of Kuching. And thank god I got her early, only after D-Look, which I believe many also consider D-Look to be one of the best characters at that point as well. So it was kind of like wanting to have D-Look here and there. And obviously Venti was also freaking broken, because obviously he was the best crowd controller back then, and there was so many small mobs that we can use Venti up upon it. So yeah, there was a lot of things that was going on. Back then, most of the players weren't too much focused on the meta, and as I've mentioned, we didn't really know too much what was going on back then. Like, Bennett and Xingqiu weren't even considered meta, and many of the players actually hated those characters. Not to mention, guys, the first ever event, which was the Elemental Crucible, was actually a resin event that we had to literally use resin in order to claim the rewards. Man, there was a lot different back in those days, but it gave us a lot of memories too, and Genshin Impact has changed a lot ever since. But yes, 1.0 is always going to be quite literally the best patch for me ever in Genshin Impact. Moving on, we have patch 1.1, and me ranking it is also going to be an S tier because, well, first of all, the continuation of the first story quest and helping us getting to the end of the Liyue story quest, which is insane. My god, the cutscenes, the animation, and the storylines towards Zhongli, it was phenomenal, really good. Not to mention the introduction of Child and Zhongli being added to the game. Now, if I remember correctly, both Child and Zhongli wasn't really accepted too well towards the player base unless you really like those characters. First of all, Child gameplay was quite hard and unique. In order to make him to do one, obviously Zhongli was actually not the character you see now, and he was actually a lot weaker than he is, which caused a huge drama uproar, especially in the Chinese community, which led to literally Hoyoverse had to buff Zhongli later on. I believe that wasn't done in patch 1.1, that was later on, but that was some of the drama that was going on there. However, that won't stop me from having this patch in S tier, because not only did we have an amazing anti-Liyue story, but we also have some of the best event in the Genshin Impact patches history up until today, which is the Unreconciled Star event. I don't exactly remember how exactly the story of the event went, but I do remember it was really good. There was a lot of lore. We didn't get to meet Wanderer the first time, not even Wanderer, he was Scaramouche. And then once the event comes to an end, we literally got a free Fischl, which is absolutely amazing, because still Fischl is considered all the way back then to be one of the best characters in the game as well. So yeah, having Hoyoverse giving us such an amazing free 4-star character was a really good event reward that we got back then. Not to mention, we also got some of the other couple events as well. For example, getting a free Barbara or some of the fun gliding challenge. But one of the best things that also happened in the patch was there was a lot of quality of life Life update, there was a lot of bug fixes, but most importantly, one of the best thing was we got upgrade to the resistance cap, which went from 120 to 160, which is, you know, not what all of us hoped for. We were wishing it to be around, you know, 200 plus, kind of like Honkai Star Rail right now, but having an increase in resin caps is a very good thing for us to get already. Other than that, right, we got city reputations being added, which helps us a lot with getting more free rewards. And yeah, you know, the wings that the city reputation gives us is really nice, and obviously other quality of life that I can't really go in depth into, otherwise this video is going to take forever. But overall 1.1 was a really good patch for us. Okay, so 1.2 is actually interesting. Now, it was a really good patch, and I'm contemplating to give it between an S rank and an A rank. If I'm being picky, it's going to be A rank, so I think I'll leave it in A rank for the time being. Now, the reason why it's such a good patch also is because it's the first ever map expansion that we get in Genshin Impact. If you've been here since the start of the game, you know that there was a very much pixelated mountain in the middle of the map. Mostly wherever you go, the dragon spine was a very pixelated mountain back then, and you cannot unsee it, which is really funny. So everyone was kind of like wondering what dragon spine is literally going to be when we get an update. And yes, it's the first expansions, and man, was it lovely. I myself love snowy regions so much that dragon spine up until this point is still one of the best parts of the map that I really much enjoy, even though it is one of the harshest places that you want to traverse in at this point in time as well, because of the cold weather system. We don't have a heat weather system yet. I feel that it's going to be a thing whenever we reach Natlan, but still Dragonspire is a very hard place for you to go through. And you know, the music was phenomenal, not to mention the character release. You know, Ganyu and Albedo. Ganyu was phenomenal, she's lovely. Everyone's waiting for Ganyu for a long time, and yes, when she came, she turned out to be an absolute amazing character, resulting her to be the best DPS in the game at that point in time. It's still one of the best DPS in the game until now too, if you're still playing her, right? Not to mention another amazing event story quest that was given to us, you know, the Dragon Spine. Once again, I don't remember the exact thing that happened then, but I just remember it was an amazing story quest that we went through with absolutely phenomenal quest rewards. You know, the Festering Desire, still one of the best free-to-play event weapon given to us that has not yet came against ever since then. So I feel sorry for any of you who did not get this weapon, because I don't know when it's going to come back. Hopefully Hoyoverse is going to give us an update on that, right? So there was a lot of content being given in patch 1.2 with the expansion of the map, right? The Frost-bearing tree that helps you guys to get more free-to-play rewards, new domains, artifacts of the Blizzard Strayer, and the Hydro Hearts of Depth set. Still one of the better set that you can have in the game. Not to mention, with quality of life features in patch 1.2, you get the ability to get free Equate Fate whenever your character reach 20, 50, and 70 character ascensions, guys. So more free standard pools for you guys, which is absolutely amazing. Other than that was, you know, repeating domains without having to exit every single time you finish it, right? So those are some of the better quality of life we got to it, which makes it patch 1.2 to be a really good patch. Now I would have put it in S tier if it weren't meant for, you know, taking out some of the event that we can't really do after the event is gone, and obviously the event weapon too. So yeah, I'm going to keep 1.2 in A tier for now. Moving on to 1.3, the first ever Lunar New Year event in Genshin Impact. You know, it is a Chinese game, so Lunar New Year is celebrated very well in Genshin, and yes, that goes for 1.3. And so I'll give this on an A tier because it was the first ever Lantern Rite event that we get to experience. You know, the changes to leeway updates, you know, all of the decoration was absolutely pretty, guys. You know, lantern floating, everything like that. We get to see more of Xiao's story quest, and yes, Xiao was introduced as well. It's an absolutely amazing character back then when he was released, and up until this point he still is, right? Now the Lantern Rite event rewards, you know, it's still debatable up until this day, but for me personally, I think it's okay, right? You do get a 10th Intertwined Fate. They do give you free 4-star character for you to choose as well, and other multiple rewards that you get during that time. I mean, obviously it could have been better, but I personally would just take whatever they give us. And Lantern Rite also introduced us to the Theater Mechanicus event gameplay as well, which is really fun. One of the best events up until this date for me personally as well. Furthermore, the character banner in 1.3 was really interesting too, because while we get the, if not one and only standard character to be featured for a unique limited banner, which is Kuchin. You know, my favorite. I mean, I've already got a couple of Kuchin constellations up until that point, but I was just really happy to actually see her. However, Kuchin banner was one of the worst banner to actually perform, which isn't really surprising considering that she is a standard character. Obviously, later on we have like Dia and Tainari being added to standard, but obviously they were kind of like a limited banner character before that. And then after Kuchin was Hu Tao, right? Still one of the best pyro character in the game as well. So patch 1.3 literally just gave us two really powerful DPSs that kind of like push the DPS ceiling and the meta to a higher level, and expectations of future DPSs that's going to be added in the game. And yes, pretty much Xiao, Hu Tao, and Ganyu was considered to be the top 3 leeway DPS ever since. Next, 1.4. Okay, now 1.4 was actually a little bit weird for me. I put it in B tier. One of the reason being is that I felt like there was a lot of filler up until this point, and you know, having played Genshin for the past 6 months and there weren't actually too much content in 1.4 led me to have kind of like a break in Genshin Impact, because I didn't really felt like playing the game at that point in time. Right, there were, you know, the first ever Windbloom event that was being added to the game, which have like breathed a fresh air back to Mondstadt. But overall, some of the, you know, gameplay mechanic in the event was just kind of bad for me. We did get a new dating sim hangout series, which is still going on up until this point, right? We got Barbara, Noelle, Chongjun, and Bennett being added. So it was quite fun, but overall, it was only a filler patch for me because, well, you know, there was only pretty much rerun character. There were only Venti and Child rerun, which there weren't any new character. They did add our next up Archon quest, which was the very first quest that we get to meet Dainsleif. But other than that, after you've already completed most of the event and story, there weren't really much else that we could have done. And so leading us to wait another pretty much 6 weeks of nothing else to do. So I mean, I could have put it in C tier, but I think I'll just give it a B tier because, you know, the very new Windbloom and the Archon quest kind of like push 1.4 up to a B tier for me. Alright, so 1.5 also I would say kind of like a filler patch also. However, they did have quite a lot of new stuff being added too, and so I think I'll just put it in B tier. Obviously, there was Zhongli rerun, so then he was already buffed, therefore he's an amazing character in patch 1.5. Therefore, it was a really good time for many of us to actually pull Zhongli. However, there was actually Eula being released too, and everyone back then loved Eula. The whole universe, man, put hard work into advertising Eula with that freaking sneeze in her trailer. So everyone was like shrimping hard for her, and not to mention Yanfei as well is a pretty fun 4-star character to actually have on your account. But also there was one really big thing that was added to patch 1.5 as well, which is housing system, the Serenity Pod, and that's a huge part of the game. Now it's not really too much of a huge part for me because I'm not too much into the housing system. I mean, if it was a little bit easier to actually farm wood, I would have put a lot more time into building my own Serenity Pod. However, it was a huge part for many of the player, and a lot of the player love the Serenity Pod. So I would say it was a really nice upgrade. There was also the Wind Trace event, first ever hide and seek event that was added, and yes, it's still one of the best event that was here. So even though 1.5 was kind of like pretty much a filler, the side events and the housing system, you know, push the tier up to a B rank for me for patch 1.5. Moving on to version 1.6, my, it's literally an S tier for me. The first ever summer event fits perfectly. The Golden Archipelago is still one of the best places for me to be. Now, I personally don't always love hot weather, so summer isn't really the best time for me. However, you know, enjoying the summer in Genshin Impact was one of the best thing I ever did. So first we've had the newest released character, which is Kazuya, still one of the best character we see up to date, right? Who's so powerful. And yes, everyone loved him right instantly when he came. There was also clear rerun, but not to mention there was the first ever outfit being added to the game, and Jean and Barbara actually got the newest outfit, which is really lovely. The Golden Archipelago, there was a huge ton of things for you to do, and the music guide was actually lovely. Not to mention there was a lot of teasing toward Inazuma now, because yes, it's the patch that's just before Inazuma. So obviously everyone was having really much fun in the Golden Archipelago while waiting for the Inazuma patch to actually come out. And yes, after patch 1.6 is obviously Inazuma, and where else would it go other than an S tier? Man, I myself love Japanese culture, and man oh man, I enjoy the first part of Inazuma so much. You know, the exploration really fun. There was so many new breath of life to the puzzle, right? I've been waiting for Inazuma ever since they first mentioned it in the game, right? Waiting for the Archon quest to move forward, you know, into meeting the Raiden Shogun. And yes, that definitely did not disappoint, because the story quest of patch 2.0 was absolutely phenomenal as well. Newest character release was Ayaka and Yoimiya. Everyone loved those characters. Ayaka is still one of our most favorite Cryo DPS segments at this point. Now, as for patch 2.1, man, we've waited for 6 weeks to actually see the next part of the Archon quest. And for me personally, guys, 2.1 for me was actually a B tier, and now I'll explain why. One of the things that patch 2.1 didn't really do too well for me was actually the Archon quest. I feel that the Archon quest was really cut short. Obviously, overall the quality of the Archon quest was still really good. However, the pacing was really weird, right? I don't really want to dive too much into it, or you know, potentially spoil for any one of you, but like, we were just doing stuff with Kokomi in the Resistant Force, and then the next thing we know, we're right next to Yae and Miko doing some training to actually deal with the Raiden Shogun, and that just took us all over the place to actually meeting up with Signora, and then ending up once again in a situation where we battle out with the Raiden Shogun, and then that just basically conclude the Archon quest. So everything ended in a single 2 patch of the Archon quest, was just really short, and I was expecting a lot more, because Inazuma's story for me, I feel did have a lot of potential and it could have been really good, but they kind of cut it out a little bit too prematurely, therefore kind of disappoint me a little bit. However, most of the other stuff that was happening in patch 2.1, you know, Raiden Shogun actually arrived. Yes, he's now to be one of, if not the best DPS character in the game back then. Not to mention, Kokomi was actually released as well. I don't think everyone really appreciated Kokomi since the time when she first arrived, because not everyone of us actually saw her potential. However, she then turned out to be one of the best Hydro character in the game, with healing capability and also Hydro applications for your team as well. And she turned out to be one of the most important Hydro character that you want to have in most of the team in the game, right? On top of that, patch 2.1 also had the Moonlight Merriment Cookie event, where you know, we had the featuring Kuching and Shangling in the long story event, which was really nice for me to have, right? You know, the catch free-to-play options was being added to the game as well. Fishing system, really fun. So there was a lot of quality of life and events being added to the game, good characters, right? So that actually helped patch 2.1 to actually settle in the B tier. Moving on, 2.2, I'd say it's a C tier for me, even though it's not entirely a filler patch. We didn't really have any new character, only Child and Hutao rerun. We did have Surubi Island map expansion. However, I didn't really enjoy the island. It was really hard to traverse, right? Because it was absolutely foggy with the introduction of the wolf, where it has access to, you know, bleed mechanic, which kind of changed a lot when it comes to the Abyss gameplay. There was the Labyrinth Warrior event, where we did have a bit of story event going on there, but there wasn't too much for me to enjoy either, right? So the patch didn't really have much going on, therefore it sits in a C tier for me. 2.3, and we're back to Dragon Spine patch. Now for me, this is like a B tier. I think the only thing that saved 2.3 for me was actually the Dragon Spine event was literally one of the best events that saved the whole patch. Man, it was actually really good. However, the character wise, we got introduced to a second banner, which is like, you know, Albedo and Eula being rerun right next to each other. And then yeah, there was Ito, but you know, I wasn't really much of a fan of Ito. So overall, apart from the event, there actually wasn't anything else for me to actually do much in the patch, right? So you get like 2 weeks of event and that's pretty much it. Okay, so 2.4 was a really interesting patch. Now it's gonna sit in A tier. There are a few huge things that went on in 2.4 for me. First of all, it was the second Lantern Rite event. Obviously, you know, we already had the first one, so it didn't really too much of an excitement. However, the new expansion of Enkanomiya was a huge lifesaver for 2.4 for me. And now I know that not many of us actually enjoy Enkanomiya, but me personally, I love Enkanomiya, right? That place was insane. It felt literally like the abyss, the loneliness, the atmosphere of the region, the way you can actually turn on and off the lighting. This turns the whole region to have something very special. You know, the depth of it, the mysterious that went on in Enkanomiya. We did kind of have a lot of lore that was going on there, which is really, really nice. I feel really good when I went through Enkanomiya and did a lot of exploration there. So I really did have fun in 2.4. Not to mention, you know, the introduction of Shanhe. Man, did I love Shanhe, right? I usually invest a lot into, you know, support and sub DPS characters, so I literally just went ahead and pulled for C3 Shanhe because I wanted to have my cryo team do phenomenally well, and Shanhe being, you know, the niche support for cryo characters, I just went ahead and invest into it. So therefore Ganyu and Ayaka teams were doing really well for me. So yeah, 2.4 was actually a really, really huge patch. And then yeah, 2.5, I would say this is pretty much a filler patch for me. It's C tier. We didn't really have much going on. Obviously, first of all, there was Yamiko. However, she wasn't really accepted too well into the player base and the meta because of how kind of like clunky she is in terms of the mechanic.
Oh yeah, ここは賑やかじゃの。わらわに内緒で何やら愉快なことでも話しておるのか?
Let me show you what a cruel world this can be.
No!
So it's just come down to whoever really loved Yamiko as a character that actually just ended up pulling for her. But other than that, you know, we get Raiden's second story quest and the main events of Enkanomiya. Overall, you know, apart from the little content that we had, we literally just have to wait another 6 weeks. After that, we have 2.6. It's at B tier for me. Now, okay, so the event in 2.6 was actually pretty fun. Irodori Festival, mixed culturistic event from different regions that came together, which is pretty fun. However, there was the chasm that unlocked the new area of Leeway expansion. It was a really, really good region area. Very beautiful regions I experienced. I think it's still one of the best places in Leeway for me until this point, right? And there was also the Archon Quest 2. However, for me personally, it still sits in the B tier because I feel that it feels at that point a little bit repetitive in terms of all the patch. I guess I was just waiting for, you know, Sumeru to actually come out because we have been waiting for Sumeru for a bit of time, right? So the ranking was a little bit more bias based to what, you know, how I feel about the patch. I could have put it in A tier, but I think I feel that, you know, I'll just put it in B tier for the time being. And then okay, 2.7 is actually the patch that came after. Now this is a freaking huge of the patch. A tier. Now there are a lot of the reason why this patch was actually in A tier. Now it can even be arguable that 2.7 can be an S tier, but I'll leave it in A tier for now. First of all is the introduction of Yelan. Still one of lowly the best character in the game at this point in time, guys, right? Even for a C6 Yelan, probably the best C6 in the game, right? So Yelan was actually really, really powerful addition to the game. However, one huge thing that came in patch 2.7 was the interlude chapter of patch 2.7 of the Archon quest, right? So we get to experience our whole gang with Yanfei, Kukishinobu, Yelan, and Ito, together with Xiao, to peer into the depth of Xiao history and, you know, some of the yakshas that was previously connected to Xiao. It was an absolutely emotional interlude chapter of an Archon quest. Very, very well done. I'm pretty sure every one of you who have gone through that interlude chapter cannot deny how good of a chapter and story quest that was. A very much deserving patch to be in an A tier, not to mention all of the other events that went along with it. So a very beautiful patch that's deserving of that ranking. And then afterwards, you know, summertime once again, and yes, 2.8 S tier. Right now, that's a huge reason for that. We are once again back to the Golden Archipelago, and one would think that it's just going to be quite lowly the same Golden Archipelago with the new event story that goes along with it, but that was not the case. There was actually a pretty much redone Golden Archipelago that is literally geared toward all of the characters that went along with us, which is Kazuha, Fischl, Mona, and Senjan. And each of these characters actually have like a domain expansion.
領域展開無料空所
of of their personality being added to the Golden Archipelago, and you get to experience it in a whole huge area, going into their domain and experience their whole story, understanding a lot more about these characters. Man, it was beautiful. My most favorite, I would say, domain was actually Fischl, right? Fischl Castle was actually absolutely beautiful, guys. You know, the pink, the purple color of that castle, it was huge, it was very in-depth. They did a really good job in terms of specifically creating those domains for those characters. I did not realize they put in that much work into it for a redone of a Golden Archipelago. So you're experiencing a huge new Golden Archipelago compared to the first one. So for me, it was really deserving to be in an S tier. Right, and then patch 2.8 comes 3.0. Okay, well, where else would it be other than an S tier for me? Yes, Sumeru expansion, as I've mentioned, I've been waiting for it. We were dying to see what's going to happen next in the Archon Quest, and yes, Sumeru finally arrived with a whole new area expansion. Sumeru was actually lovely, a lot of rainforest, so if you didn't really like trees that much, then you probably didn't enjoy it. But for me personally, it was really good. The music was absolutely stunning, but that's not all of the reason why it deserves to be in an S tier, because the Archon Quest of patch 3.0 was absolutely phenomenal. 3.0 Archon Quest still is one of the best Archon Quests we have to date, right? Everything that was going on with Nahida, I'm pretty sure you guys have experienced if you went through it. You know, Nilou dance, right? The beautiful music of Nilou, all of the character was absolutely really good. And also that part of the story, even though it's not the complete story of Sumeru, however, at the end of patch 3.0, you still felt like there was something that has already been completed your loop in terms of the story wise of the Sumeru city area. So it didn't really left you of a hanging after patch 3.0 story has ended, which for me personally was really good feeling, because I don't entirely feel like I have to wait until patch 3.1 to experience it next. So overall, 3.0 was actually a very lovely patch for us to experience. And then after that was patch 3.1. For me, 3.1 was actually in the B tier. Yes, the Archon Quest was still good. However, we were introduced to the first part of the desert area, and for me personally, I didn't really enjoy the desert area too much, and the Archon Quest had a lot to do, you know, dealing with the story in the desert. I think it was an okay Archon Quest for me. Like, the only thing that kind of saved patch 3.1 for me was Nilou. Nilou being added to the game. Most of us love Nilou after seeing, you know, her dance in patch 3.0, right? So if Nilou were to be here, obviously most of us were going to be pulling for her. But the thing is with Nilou is that she is one of the best characters in the game, introducing us to a very unique theme gameplay mechanic of Nilou Bloom that changed up a whole lot whenever you're touching into Bloom kind of gameplay, right? There was also Cyno, so any one of you who actually loves Cyno was actually on a good part there as well. And then other than that, 3.1 did have Wine Laser Fest as well. I think that was an autumn event in Mondstadt, right? So we got to experience, you know, Mondstadt story event once again regarding Razors and the other Mondstadt character. So overall, I think it was a pretty good patch, but for me, it's still going to be in the B tier because I didn't really enjoy the desert area that much. Then after that, we had 3.2 A tier, the conclusion of Sumeru storyline. Really good conclusion. My god, I think they learned from Raiden's and Inazuma's story quest to not shorten in the Archon quest too much of only having it in 2 parts. Now they're extending it into kind of like a 3-part where it goes all the way to 3.2, so we get to experience a lot more of the Archon quest, especially when you literally have to wait a freaking year for kind of like the new Archon quest actually comes, right? So having more in-depth storyline of each region is a lot more appreciated, right? And we get to experience, you know, the transitions of Scaramouche into Wanderer, you know, Nahida Love, man, she's just a cute little girl, and having really much an amazing conclusion to the Sumeru storyline. Then afterward comes patch 3.3. Now this patch actually felt like a filler to me, even though I would say that overall the content wise was, they did add quite a lot of content. First of all, we did have Wanderer, however, I didn't really pull for Wanderer, so there was not many new characters I could enjoy during that patch.
No one to blame but yourselves.
Right, there was kind of like an extension of the Archon quest, basically having more of an in-depth, kind of like an after story of how Wanderer and Nahida connections was going on. So that was a fun little part, and I think that was the only thing that saved patch 3.3 for me. Another big thing that was added into patch 3.3 was actually the TCG event. Now, the gameplay mechanic I would say is actually pretty fun. However, TCG didn't really pop off, and yeah, it was actually once again a really niche kind of like part of the end game for us to enjoy. And obviously I didn't really play too much into TCG either, so there weren't too many things that was going on in patch 3.3 for me. Next, 3.4, man, this is the third Lantern Rite event. For me, it's actually in C tier. There are a few reasons for that. First of all, we've already experienced a few Lantern Rite events. However, this Lantern Rite event was actually not too bad. It was quite okay. The new character coming were Al-Haytham. However, I don't usually pull for male characters, so there actually weren't any new character for me to actually enjoy in that patch. There was actually the new desert area that was unlocked afterward. Now, I already mentioned how much I kind of hated desert area, so once again, I didn't even touch on this new part of the area. I didn't really explore much. So other than the Lantern Rite event story that I went through, there was actually not much else that I did during that patch as well. We did have, you know, the Lisa events so that we could have her outfit, and yes, Ayaka outfit as well. However, once again, I didn't really touch on that outfit either, so there weren't much as well. And then, oh look, oh my god, we have basically a whole tier of not having any patches. Wondering why I have this tier without having any patches ranking in. Well, I guess 3.5 is going to go here. A few reasons for this, right? This is the second Windbloom event that we are having. It's a kind of nice event. However, I don't think the story quest was actually really good either. Other than that, most of the thing that was being added as well was also filler. Now, Dia was added to the game, but Dia was actually one of the worst 5-star characters that we actually get to date. Not to mention, they announced that Dia was going to be added into a standard banner. So not only did Genshin Impact not do justice to Dia, because many of us actually really like that character. Now we have a really bad character on a standard banner, therefore you have a really high chance of getting a bad character whenever you lose to a 50-50, and that is not desirable for many of you. And yes, Dia was also the only new character that we've got in patch 3.5 as well. After that, we have 3.6. For me as well, absolutely filler. Now I know that it's actually not for some of you. Now the first thing is that we did have a very specific event that comprised of the battle between the Darshans of the Academia. Next thing is that there is the new additions of the desert area again. At that point, I'm like, come on, how many desert area are you going to be adding into the game? I haven't even touched on the past desert area unlock, and now we're having an even more desert area, and still until this point I haven't even touched on this area too much apart from unlocking the waypoint so that I can actually farm some material whenever I need it. Right, there was Baiju being added to the game as well. Now I know that Baiju is a pretty interesting character, however since we have Yao Yao, not many of us actually went ahead to pull for Baiju unless we really like him. So overall, for me, absolutely filler patch. Up next is 3.7. Oh wow, look at that, another D tier filler patch once again. This time it's an absolutely filler patch, which basically I don't think there was much to do in this patch, right? There was no new characters being added. The only thing we have was basically the new event, kind of like a TCG battle event across that. So if any of you actually enjoy TCG, you're going to enjoy it, right? Very niche event as well. There weren't much to do other than that either, apart from waiting for, you know, kind of like a summer event that comes again for patch 3.8. Then afterward, we come the summer patch, and that goes into a B tier for me. Now, Summer Paradise is actually a very fun place that we get to have a very unique place as well that give us a sense of a uniqueness to the combination of Sumeru and Fontaine, kind of like carnival style place, right? Pretty unique place to be in, right? The music, the carnival style, very playful. The event, I would say, is kind of okay. The region was actually pretty fun to go through. We didn't really have any new character. There was only Eula, Klee, as well as Kokomi and Wanderous Rerun back then. Other than the whole area that you're going to explore as well as going through the event, there was nothing else that you could have done other than waiting for Fontaine to actually arrive afterwards. And yes, my oh my, after that we were rewarded with Fontaine, and an absolutely amazing of a patch it is.
I, Focalor, hereby welcome you to the nation of Hydro and acknowledge the value and significance of your trip.
man, I've been waiting for Fontaine and getting to meet Furina ever since I actually got a glimpse of her leak images a whole year before that. However, the funny thing of these leak images of, you know, Furina, Focalor, right, however you call it back then, was actually a spitting image of Furina. So I was actually amazed how accurate Furina leak images actually was. A lot to talk about in Fontaine. I personally love Fontaine, the whole region, the underwater region, the breath of Fontaine, right? New life to a whole region expansions. The music was absolutely phenomenal. Fontaine music for me right now is still literally the best music in the whole game for me. The Archon quest, you know, Furina personality, I know that many of you don't really like her back then, but for me, you know, I just like her sassy personality so much because it gave kind of like a unique feeling to a whole cast of character that was introduced in Genshin Impact. So I really did enjoy 4.0 a lot, which is why it sits in S tier for me. Moving on, we have 4.1. This is actually a B tier for me. Now, there are a few reasons for this. Obviously, we just had a very good Archon quest in patch 4.0, and this is going to be a continuation of it. And obviously, we are very much looking forward to it. However, Hoyoverse literally decided to have basically a whole patch of us being in prison, right? And that didn't really go on too well. So overall, it was kind of like, I would say too much of a boring, but also kind of like a boring event story quest as well. We did get to learn a lot in terms of the new characters, the storyline as well. So overall, the continuation of the Fontaine storyline. Other than that, we did have New Villette, still literally one of the best characters we have in the game. But after that, I don't think there were too much to do other than you experiencing the Archon quest. We did have the poetry storyline that features Hu Tao and Venti, which was kind of interesting, but overall it was actually a short story event as well. Therefore, I would say 4.1 is a B tier for me. And then moving on, there is 4.2. I feel that, what can I say for this patch specifically? I feel that this patch would have been on a whole different tier of itself. If there were an SS tier, this patch is going to be there. However, there aren't, so I'm going to be giving it on an S tier very much. I don't think I have to explain why this patch is on such a high tier. I believe that as long as you experience patch 4.2, I'm pretty sure you would understand the same. So I won't be talking too much about this and let you guys experience the whole Archon quest and enjoy everything for yourself. After that, we had 4.3, and this is going to be on a C tier for me, kind of like a filler patch. We did have the Rose and Musket story event, which is actually pretty good. And of course, with the introduction of Navia, that kind of like saved the whole Geo storyline. Other than that, I would say there weren't too much else that we could have done, because at that point, Fontaine region was actually pretty much already done with all of the expansion that we've already had. So we can only experience, you know, Navia for a bit and enjoy the story of Rose's Musket. Once that story ends, the rest of it is going to be pretty much a filler kind of things that we had to go through. And then after that comes, you know, the fourth Lantern Rite event. However, this one is pretty much special, and for me personally, this goes all the way to A tier, right? And there are a few specific reasons for that. The biggest one was actually the introduction of Chenjuville, and my oh my, it's one of my most favorite region up until this point as well, because Chenjuville was actually Chef Kiss in Leeway Addition is very, very beautiful additional of a region for me specifically. Now I know that 4.4 had a lot of drama that went on, you know, all goes towards, you know, the Lantern Rite event rewards once again, and then, you know, the content creator drama that was going on everywhere as well. But in terms of the quality of the patch wise, with the introduction of Chenjuville and a very nice Lantern Rite story event, I would just have to give it on the A tier for me personally, because overall, content wise, I did actually enjoy it very much. And the introduction of Xian Yun as well, which actually saved Xiao. So Xiao main actually did get to enjoy a lot from that patch as well. And then finally, we have patch 4.5. Not much to discuss, guys. D tier, oh my god, absolutely filler. Not much to do. Chiori was absolutely a disappointment in terms of being a second Albedo being into the game. They didn't even try to create a whole new kit for her, right? A mixture mixture of albedo kits and kuching for her E skill. I don't know why they created Chiori to be like that, right? Other than, you know, the event, potion event, which actually wasn't that good either. I don't feel like they gave much of an attention toward patch 4.5. So once again, we're just going to be having to wait for patch 4.6. Alright, then finally we have patch 4.6. Now obviously it has not finished yet, but 4.6 has only been here for like 2 weeks. However, I believe I should be able to make quite a bit of a conclusion toward this patch. And for me personally, 4.6 is going to be in C tier. Couple of reasons for this, right? I think there has been quite a lot of talk out there towards patch 4.6, especially toward the Alekino story quests, right? Because one of the huge things that many have been talking about is the fact that 4.6 has been spoiled quite a lot with the animated video of Alekino being posted on Genshin's YouTube channel have like a week before Alekino's story quest actually arrived. Now obviously it also comes down a lot to perspective of different players, right? For me, how I see it is that by having an animated versions of Alekino's story being posted, we were able to understand a lot more in depth after going through her story quest, so that wasn't actually a big deal for me. What actually was a hit to 4.6 for me was how they done Alekino's story quest. Was that it was quite heavily lack of content. They were basically only giving us more in-depth versions of the animated video they have posted. Half of the story quest was already basically babysitting our lovely girl here, and then basically the rest was just dissolving a dispute and then having a battle with Alekino. That's pretty much it. And then also the map expansion, right, of Remuria was pretty freaking small. Now the underwater region, they did put quite an effort toward it. I think the music is also beautiful, but overall wait for 6 weeks to have, I would say, quite very little update, especially when after 4.5 was like literally the worst Genshin Impact patch in the whole Genshin Impact history, and therefore adding everything together, we're like waiting for around over 12 weeks of not too much interesting content, right? Because even for 4.6, obviously we're still waiting for the main events, but if that is not going to be very freaking good, 4.6 is still just going to be pretty much a filler patch and it's going to be continuing to sit in the C tier. And therefore that's how I am currently seeing it for patch 4.6 right now. And overall guys, that's going to be all of the patches I've ranked until this point. I hope that was a lovely time that you went through with me. Everything of this is my personal opinion toward the patch, and I have to say I did enjoy Genshin Impact a lot. There wasn't really too many of a low tier patch. Obviously there were fillers here and there, but overall Genshin Impact has always been an amazing experience for me to go through as a game and as a content creator. But guys, leave it down in the comment section what you guys think and feel of many of the patch, and you guys can actually, you know, give your whole tier in the comment section so I can actually have a look and enjoy and discuss with you there as well. If you enjoyed the video guys, don't forget to subscribe. With that guys, I really appreciate you guys sticking with me till this part of the video, and with that I wish you a super day. I will catch you on my next video.